Peace and love, everybody. Welcome to the page. My name is Salvatore Swain. This is the Psychonaut FX page. Basically, I am a Psychonaut day trader. I've been a Psychonaut day trader of about 6-7 years, heavily involved with plant medicines, ceremonially, ritually, recreationally, and a variety of other use cases for psychedelics and plant medicines and theogenic stuff. I've used plant medicines to help heal myself from ancestral, psychological, physical ailments or maladies or traumas, however you perceive it from that perspective. But I was raised by Caribbean women who had a very strong sense of spirituality. And because of that foundation of spiritual practice and spiritual knowledge, rolling itself over to me, I kind of found a way to blend the worlds of spirituality, finance, and technology. And so what I believe is that finance and other psychological things are a part of the cultural healing process. So we believe in this generation that healing just has to be physical, but we know far beyond time that it is psychological, mental, emotional, spiritual. And I would even add into that equation financial now. So a part of me, I guess you could say, achieving financial healing over the years, as a young entrepreneur, I spent a few years in college, and I ended up dropping out. I ended up dropping out of college because I knew I was just going to college for no reason. You know what I mean? College doesn't really equip you with the amount of resources that you need to become successful in this world, let alone even the people that you need to meet. Although you meet some very beautiful people and you get to experience a variety of different things, and it does teach you some things, some levels of discipline, but obviously it keeps you in the rat race mentality of being in debt, getting an education, going to school, getting a white picket fence, getting a degree, et cetera, et cetera. And nobody wants that. I mean, some people do. And for some people, that stability works. However, I know that I come from a family of entrepreneurs, although people who have also been in the workforce. I'm talking about, like, I remember my mother telling me stories about how her father in Puerto Rico used to work for like a couple dollars a day. You know what I mean? Travel a couple miles up a mountain just to work for a couple dollars a day. So like the hustle was ingrained in me, and another aspect to it is that I come from an Italian family who used to work or have association with the mob or mafia and stuff like that. So the gray area market and gray area businesses were uh, not unfamiliar to me in that way. But I also have a bunch of legal entrepreneurs in my family as well. And coming from that space of um, having the entrepreneurs, but also seeing the workforce, I see the importance of both. And however, I made the conscious decision to, try it out and not give it up all and just shit on it completely, because I know to some extent it can do you wonders. I've worked corporate for a year. Keep in mind, I'm only 25 years old as well. So I've worked corporate marketing, and it was cool. It was a good stepping stone, but I knew that there was much more in the tarot cards for me and my destiny to be working at some desk, some cubicle, working for 60, $50,000, $60,000 a year. Even if I was 20, 21 years old doing that, still wasn't enough for me. But, I have a rich background of doing a lot of psychological work. I went to school for psychology, but when I got out, I started working in with nonprofits and group homes and teaching and coaching social emotional learning. I got really well versed in yoga, meditation, and I went through a whole spiritual awakening throughout that process of my college career, changing my diet, doing detoxification practices and stuff like that. So I did a lot, and I'm sure, you being on this channel, you'll hear a lot more about my story, and cover a bunch of different topics from financial, spiritual, psychological, physical health, and all those, everything in between, because I see it all as one functioning mechanism. But the niche of this channel is trading, because I've been a trader since 2017. And when I dropped out of school, I wanted to have something to do outside of traditional corporate jobs, to be able to uh, find that solace of financial freedom. And when I left, it was funny, because when I left school in like 26 or 2017, that same year I had started working like 3, 4 jobs in the field of psychiatry and social services, but I didn't have any degree. So I was making more money and getting the positions of people who go to school for 4 years to get psychological degrees. I already had it. And although I had those positions, they still weren't paying enough. As many of you know, social service work does not pay a lot of money at all. So I was probably making $40,000 a year, still working 3 jobs, because I was doing Uber and Lyft on the side. I was doing a lot. I was making the most money as I was making in my life, but I still felt like I was broke, and I needed something to change that. You know what I mean? So what I did was I obsessively scavenged the internet for resources on different business models that are outside of the traditional model of 9 to 5 working. And although I was still in that model, I knew that if, like, the 90-10 rule, or the 4-hour work week from Tim Ferriss, is like, he talks about, the more you allocate your time and resources to that 10% hobby that makes you money, that makes you happy, that makes you healthy, it'll eventually replace that 90% of income that's being generated by 90% of your time, right? And I was over the whole model of exchanging time for money. But when I was in college, I was trying to learn about this stuff too, because I knew that college wasn't it. I was trying to start little drop shipping websites for e-commerce shirts and clothing. And I've always been entrepreneur minded, but I just didn't have a system. And so eventually I found, funny enough, I found the Day Trading Academy with Marcello Aramid. And this Colombian, I'm sure he's probably born in Colombia, but nonetheless, I loved all of his lifestyle videos. I loved how upfront, modest, humble he was, but also he was like, he was just a regular dude, just like anybody else, who was able to achieve their financial freedom with consistently focusing on the skill of day trading. So I had paid in 2017. I paid for my first day trading program, mentorship program. It was $3,500. And I dedicated myself to it, all while working these 2, 3 jobs and hustling on the side and trying to, do little stuff just to get by, you know what I'm saying? But I remember when that year, I had funded my first account with $2,200. And at the time I was trading futures. So I had learned a whole system of trading futures and all this other stuff. And I thought it was great, you know what I mean? And at the time, it was what I was exposed to. Like, I had, I really wasn't interested in stocks. I had heard a lot about options. I really wasn't interested in those styles or those markets, just for some reason. I just really liked what Marcello was doing. So I was like, let me give it a go. It turns out, when I opened up my first account, it was good, right? It was good for the first week. I remember the first few days I had made like $400 or $500, and I was shocked. This was a revolutionary breakthrough for me, because in a traditional model, someone would have just had to work 40 hours a week for what I just made in a matter of a couple hours, pushing buttons on my phone. And I laugh, and sometimes I make fun of the older generations, because it's almost like a luxury that we have as millennials or Gen Z folk, where we could literally, like, the model of business and making money has changed. As long as you have cellular connection, internet, a device, maybe a computer, you can successfully make a salary from just that. So this was revolutionary for me, and I decided to embark on a new path of, being a day trader. And at the time, I was trying to do everything I can. Being young, super young, I was 20 at the time, or was I, like 19, 20 at the time when I had found day trading. But nonetheless, though, I just like a lot of people go through the ups and downs of um, making money and then losing money. And I believe it was the next week I had, even though I had made $400, I think the next week I had lost like $700. And so I had got very discouraged quickly. And at the time, there wasn't really like the whole prop firm funding challenges and all that kind of stuff. Like that stuff really just popped off over the last like maybe like 4 years. Like it was around at the time, but it just was outside of my scope of awareness. But during that time, I was still actually working on building my credit and trying to get credit funding and stuff like that for my businesses, because that's what I did outside of trading for the uh, because it was I was afraid. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. I was afraid of losing money. I was afraid of that's primarily what it was. I was afraid of losing money. It wasn't just about decision making or losing, but it was more so about losing money. And the fear of losing in general is something recurring motif that I feel like I'll talk about more on this channel. But it was a blessing. It was a blessing in disguise because I went on a little side mission. I always tell that to people. When you have a path, sometimes God will take you on a detour. It's like a side mission when you play like video games. Like you got a main plot, but you got to complete these little side missions because your karmic energy has to learn certain lessons that you've been sent here for. So I truly believe that my side missions were I had to I went and I started a business consulting agency, and I did business consulting for a few years alongside of holistic medicine practice. So I have a lot of tools in my toolkit, and that was another one of the big issues of my trading career is that my passions and what made me money prevented me from focusing 100% on trading. But eventually I found in 2019, 2018, 2019, I had come back around to trading, but I knew that the style of trading just didn't suit me anymore. Like, for example, I had to pay for data with Ninja Trader. Like I had to do all this stuff. Like all of these expenses were coming out of nowhere just to sit down and trade. And so naturally, just like you will encounter, I had blockages on the path of being able to get to where I am now. But eventually I had found Forex. And forex forex alongside of um I always tell people forex or trading in general alongside of psychedelics has been the most psychologically advancing tools that I've been able to introduce myself to as a young adult. And if I would do it all over again, if I could do it all over again, I would buckle down on one skill, and that skill would be trading. So I was actually in my hometown, the town over from my hometown. One of my friend's cousins actually was the one who actually showed me about Forex. Um, and then, slowly after I was introduced to the model of people trading off solely their phone with Forex, because the style of trading was easier for me because I could trade commodities, I could trade metals, I could trade indices, I could trade currencies, and I could trade cryptocurrencies, all from the style of trading that I implement now. So I feel like it was important for me to, sift through all of those things to be able to then arrive back at, Forex. But, alongside of the Forex, I was ceremonially engaged in all kinds of psychedelic plant medicine ceremonies, working with tribes here in the tri-state, sitting in peyote, ayahuasca, mushroom, a variety of other plant medicine ceremonies that were traditional to them. And as a young man, this was almost like my rites of passage, where this is where I earned my stripes as a young man and was able to really learn and clear the vision of what I wanted to manifest. And although at times it may have been confusing, troublesome to kind of see what direction I wanted to take, I always had a strong foundation of spirituality and self-awareness. And so, that kind of triumphed me throughout the years. And eventually, Forex ended up making me hundreds of thousands of dollars. Of course, I've also lost a decent amount of money in the industry, but Forex has brought me a lot more than it has than I've lost from it. And those losses are just lessons. And so I see a big gap. I see a big gap in the industry of people who are traders uh, especially for the Gen Z generation, millennial generation, I do believe that there is a gap because the world is changing. You know, no longer are people, well, still probably are, but no longer are people interested, new traders interested on doing cocaine in Wall Street. Now, day traders are, microdosing psilocybin and prioritizing psychological development over um, rigid stress reduction techniques like doing cocaine and resorting to drinking and the nightlife on Wall Street is what we perceive it to be, especially through media and movies and all this kinds of stuff. So it is a new generation of entrepreneurs making themselves known. And I wanted to contribute because I feel like there is a gap of people, kids and young adults, especially young males, especially who can use these tools like psychedelics and trading as one of the most psychological advancement tools of this age. So welcome to the channel. Hope you all enjoy the content and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.